Startuprad.io, your podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events.
Hey guys, welcome back to episode number 2 of my interview with Steven, which was originally planned just as one interview, but turned out we were talking for 9 questions for like 50 minutes. So here are the next questions. You are the founder of Sukha, a flow app that helps you get into flow. Having other people online meeting with you, being seen visually to work, which makes a big impact. And you've been working in the film industry in the past, and for example, on stuff like Independence Day, Braveheart, True Lies, Godzilla. You worked, for example, on Transformers Prime, and so on and so forth. Pretty awesome stuff. And we just picking your brain here on more stuff, on more productivity hacks. What is your 5-minute drop-in ritual? What are the exact steps and tools and environment tweaks, like from your framework, your playbook?
Okay, that is a great question. Okay, so I'm going to touch upon a number of things. For those listening, some of these things are going to be very prescriptive. Like, here is something you can try. Some of them will be illustrative to say, like, this is how it applies in my life. Okay, so you can understand the context of it. So in episode 1, we talked a bit about time blocking, right? So I'm not going to cover that here, but that is a very important thing for me. When I come back from the gym in the morning, I get up at 5, go to the gym, come back. I have a few hours of incredible quiet. Those are sacred to me. You can't even book it in my calendar. And when we were scheduling this podcast is at this time because I've already completed my focus work for the day, which feels amazing to know that in those 3-4 hours, I did enough for an entire day's work because I was not distracted. So listen to episode 1 if you want to talk more about, listen more about time blocking and chronotypes, right? So here's another one we didn't cover that helps me, which is it is about the relationship between your mind and physical spaces. And I will tell you a story actually about Roland. So when we met, it was interesting to me that there was a house, this villa in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where Roland and Dean, who wrote their scripts together, Universal Soldier, Stargate, all the stuff, they would go to write. Apparently, it's this beautiful white marble villa in the hills of Puerto Vallarta. When Roland and Dean needed to go write Independence Day, Roland told his assistant, Joey, he's like, Joey, go write the villa. And Joey came back and said, it's rented. Because this is, like pre-Airbnb, but it was like an Airbnb that you sort of, a vacation rental. And I asked Dean why this was so important to them. He said, you have to understand there is a room there where in the morning the sunlight comes over the pool and it inspires us. We don't think about our agents. We don't think about the budget of the movie, studio notes, what cast is available. We just think about what's the movie we would want to watch. And we try and write that. So when Joey told Roland, the place is not available, Roland called his entertainment attorney that Friday and said, John Deemer is an amazing attorney. John, buy the villa. By Monday, Roland owned a $5 million villa in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I do not know the current people who are renting that villa where they went. I'm sure they were nicely paid to find another villa in Puerto Vallarta, right? And they went down there, and 6 weeks later, Roland and Dean returned with the script that became the third highest grossing movie in film history at the time, right? That was this important thing for their mental state to be in there. Now, it is not that everyone listening to this has to go buy $5 million villas. We're not saying that. Later, when I'm at DreamWorks, right? So I was an executive vice president with Alex Kurtzman and Bob Orsi, who are great guys. And we had, that Amblin compound, the DreamWorks compound, is on the Universal Studios lot in Hollywood. Directly across the street, across Lankershim, is the Universal Hilton Hotel. Now, I'm going to be kind. This is the hotel where you stay with your 3 kids the night before you go to Universal Studios theme park. This is not a place you seek out in the world. It's like a great hotel, right? But when Alex and Bob were in crunch time. Oh, we have to finish Transformers 2 in 3 weeks, right? Oh, we have to finish Star Trek 11. They had their assistant rent a room over at the Universal Hilton, and they would go there every day like it was the office for several weeks. And I thought to myself, they're making a couple $1,000,000 every script. Like they could buy a villa in Puerto Vallarta or they could go anywhere. Why this? And what I realized was this. They met back in school. And that hotel room with like Kurtzman on the edge of the bed with his laptop and Bob at the desk, that evoked dorm room. That brought them back mentally to, oh, we're these writers who have to prove that we're great. We have to pull this off. And that was how they used mental space. They knew that about themselves. So why do I say this? I made that mistake. When I started working remotely, in the morning, I'd be in the kitchen because, breakfast and my laptop's there and the light is beautiful. I work from there. Come upstairs, work from my office at lunch, right? The sofa in the late afternoon. And I realized I was not taking advantage of this thing where you say to your brain, oh, I'm in this space. This is where I code, or this is where I write. And a lot of the great writers, a lot of the great engineers use that technique. So when you start to do this over time, your brain falls into that mode. I walk into my office up here now, and my brain gives up a lot of distractions around, should the laundry be done? Oh, did the trash need to go out? I walk up here and I think, oh, you know what? Let me open up my coding assistant. Let me open up, my blogging platform and do that thing. So a very simple part of my ritual to get into flow. Then, of course, there is music. And by the way, a lot of research shows for most people, the sweet spot is 60 to 90 beats per minute. Ambient, non-vocal, certain key signatures, rhythmic music. We all have, some friend that gets into flow using, 90s gangster rap or Tchaikovsky or, something. There are many outliers, but for most people, this works. And I'll tell you a couple of things that I learned outside the science, because when we designed Sukha, we said, oh, I have a lot of friends who are film composers. Write me 1,000 hours of music that's basically like lo-fi beats or, upbeat or down tempo sort of stuff. We threw in some binaural beats, which I know when you have beautiful headphones like you do, you probably have experimented with binaural beats, right? Something I did not know was this. One of my friends does the sound for the LucasArts games, like the Star Wars games. He lives up in Marin. His high school graduation present to his son was his son wanted to go to Nepal. So they went there. When he came back, he said, Stephen, this is going to sound weird, but when we were in Kathmandu, this one day it poured rain. It was this beautiful, lush rain. And I had some of my recording equipment there, so I recorded 2 hours of it. Do you want it? And I was like, okay, that's kind of an odd offer, but sure, kind of cool. So we threw it up as a playlist. I didn't know it was going to happen. I just said, let's call it Himalayan Dream Rain, and we'll just throw it in and see if people discover it. It's our third most popular playlist. And when I asked some members that I saw listening to it, I was like, hey, do you mind? I noticed you listen to this. Can you tell me about that? They talked about how that worked for them, sort of like the physical space thing they were talking about. Oh, it reminds me when I was little, I grew up in this part of the country where it rained all the time, and I'd be doing my homework to the sound of the rain. So then I started asking, what other sounds help you get into flow? And it's interesting. Some people said, oh, surf. I grew up by the water. Oh, I grew up by this lake. We had the sound of a stream in Japan. And then a number of people said, and this brings us back to the beginning of the episode, a number of people said, oh, you know what? Coffee shops. I can't go there anymore. Like I have little children. I used to, when I was younger, I would go to a coffee shop and work from there. And, now I can't do it with kids, but I loved that feeling of being there. So we found someone who recorded a couple hours in a coffee shop in Vienna, Austria. And we threw it up with a little, the sounds of the baristas, and the plates clattering and this. And we called it Café Vienne. It's become incredibly popular. So it's weird the way people have their mental tricks.
Actually, I'll link here in the show notes. I found a 26 second sample from your company on YouTube with this Himalayan Dream Rain. And I'll link it down here in the show notes. Okay. Yes.
So a long answer. There are a lot of things that help. They're part of my flow practice, but there's music, there's time blocking, there is mental space tied to physical space, and there are others we can talk about. But I know that was a big chunk.
Hmm. Give us the flow week operating system. Rituals on Monday, Tuesday versus Thursday, Friday, meeting windows, and how you defend Maker Time.
Okay, so I will tell you this. I don't have research and I don't have anecdotal evidence of different days of the week. When I look at the distribution of member, usage of Sukha, there are so many people in so many different time zones in so many different countries that they have different rhythms. So I would love to be an expert on things that I know, and I would love to be not an expert on things I don't know. So you just asked, I have seen so many people use Sukha in so many different times in so many different ways. I can't tell you a pattern of Monday through Friday or even Saturdays and Sundays because I know we have a lot of solopreneurs who are working on Saturdays and Sundays because they can't do it during their day job during the week. So I don't have a great answer for you on that one.
I have some personal experience to share here. Because
tell me.
I found a few things. One, I need the recovery on the weekend. So basically, Saturday, Sunday, no working unless it's absolutely necessary.
Sure.
And in times of maker time, actually, what I did is after the first year of being a solo entrepreneur, I was just looking at, I was analyzing like the data that I had, and I found out Tuesdays are the least booked days. So basically, I moved like everybody. We do get 100 pitches per interview slot. So you need to work through the emails, you need to work through like the meetings with the people, and then finally condense them and get like a question list up like we did here. And so you need to have like different stages. Plus, of course, I need to meet with potential sponsors, partnerships, and so on and so
Sure.
forth. And so I had 2 days set up as meeting days, and in between I defend the time to be productive, and my main working day for my paying clients is my Tuesday. That's
There you
basically
go. I'm glad you
barely any.
structured it that way.
I work with an app, most people know Calendly, and basically on Tuesdays
Yes.
it's extremely hard to book with me.
Yeah. And I love that because what you're saying plays into a theme that we've talked about in 2 episodes now, which is how do you get in control of your life as opposed to be controlled by your life? You brought up something when we were concluding the last episode that I think we should talk about, which is distractions. Because I have a lot of data on distractions and what happens with our members. I can talk about it in an aggregated way. I'm not going to talk about any particular person like Jorn. You have to get off, you're watching CNN all the time, right? No. But I can talk about it in an aggregated way because I think this is very interesting and it helps us to craft the platform. And by the way, you know the value of member feedback, right? User feedback is golden. Our group chat is a fantastic place where people complain and we love it. We're like, oh, we can fix that. We can make that. We can build that, right? So you brought up distractions. Why don't you tell me, for you, what do you think are the most distracting things and what do you perceive are the most distracting things for others? I'd love to know those 2 answers.
So distracted things are random phone calls. I turned to one of the startups I had here on interview from Austria. They called Phonio. So basically what I do, I only give out landline, and everybody on landline lands on my Phonio AI system, leaves them a message, and gets here on my email. That's it. And
What a
that
great system.
I completely eliminated. Secondly, people only do like Calendly bookings. They have to be 4 hours ahead of time. That's also fine. The only things left for distracting me are actually my family, but That, on the other hand, is basically something you can manage and something that is okay in some phases. For example, I have like an unwritten rule with my family. If the door is open, you can come in. If the door is closed right now, with the recording, no distractions.
So I have a question about that, which is Henry is the son that I've met, right? Is that right? Yeah. So you use headphones, which have become very popular as a signal of don't disturb me, especially in open offices. Do they also perceive the headphones as a don't disturb dad?
No.
It's the
I'm the
door.
dad. I'm always available for them 24/7.
Okay, but for you, it's the door. It's if the door is closed.
Yeah, it's a door. I actually have a key. I lock it, and when my sons were very small, they had to learn. They stand outside there knocking. If the door is closed, that's it. That is not going to open. They had to learn it. It was a few very tough days because they're outside. Daddy, daddy, hello. It breaks your heart, but then they've learned it, and then you have the pattern established.
Yeah. Okay. Please go on. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
What we were talking about, that was example number one, and what we were talking about
Question 2 is, what do you perceive as the biggest distractions for other people?
for other people. I'm not sure. I think there are really different types of people. For example, some of them are really distracted by pop-ups, by messages, and so on and so forth. That's actually a new thing that my smartphone is not doing anything. It's my smartwatch, and only very selected apps that can ping me. And in terms of my desktop, there's barely any app, anything that can send messages. So everything I have on my cell phone is quiet, and there are like 2 or 3 tools on my desktop computer that can send me messages. That's it.
Okay. Would you like to know what we've discovered about distraction?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So I started, as many entrepreneurs do, solving a problem that I had, right? And for me, there were 2 problems that were painful. One was procrastination about getting started, the inertia of getting started, and how easy it was to scroll through the news or return emails or do something as opposed to eat the frog, right? So the second problem was about distraction during the day. And I found that I was the most vulnerable when I would be encountering an obstacle. Oh, I'm trying to get this bit of code done and the build keeps failing. What is wrong with this? I'm writing a blog post and I know that it's terrible. Like the muses are not singing to me and I'm just reading it going, I wouldn't read this. Why am I writing this? Right? So in those moments of frustration, I would then be very vulnerable to my hand picking up the phone. Well, I'm just going to check and see if, you aren't WhatsApped me or, who sent me a message. I can just return that. And that turns into then, opening the YouTube video or the TikTok or something. It's just nothing good happens from that, right? So those are my 2 problems. Let me tell you about how I solved that. And let me expand to what I've seen in user data. So with the first one, getting started, I realized I would procrastinate because I was overwhelmed. There are too many things on my to-do list. It's paralyzing. Or, this thing I have to do is so big, I can't make a dent in it. But between now and the podcast that you and I are going to do today, I can't write my book or something, right? So why get started? And I realized the solutions to those were very simple. When I organize my task list in Sukha, as soon as I hit play and the music starts, it hides everything but my 3 top tasks. So it forces me to prioritize and say, okay, what are the 3 important things to do today? And then not think about the 14 other things that could clutter my mind or make me multitask, right? So that was a very helpful thing for me to say, when I see 3 things that I'm working, it seems very achievable. Can I tell you, since we started that feature where we hide everything but your top 3, our members are 77% more likely to finish 3 than before when they could see their entire task list and they would finish 1 or 2. Simple hack, nothing changed. The same tasks, the same members, the same amount of time. The only thing that changed was it seems achievable. I can do 3. When I thought about, This task, I have to go create the new website, write the book. Those are not tasks. Those are goals. So you can ask your smart assistant, hey, help me break this down. And it'll be, you know what? I saw you already wrote the outlines for chapters 1 and 2 of your book. What if today's task is just outline chapter 3? And you can do that in 30 minutes. I've been watching you. You do your outlines in about 30 minutes. Suddenly, your task list seems achievable, right? So that was a way of getting over that inertia, that procrastination at the beginning of the day. That's a problem for me. And then in terms of distraction, I didn't want to download. There's some great apps, don't get me wrong, that block your phone. They lock it. They're physical hardware devices like brick you can buy that bricks your phone. Like, there are many ways to do that. But I realized, I'm not a child. What I actually need is I just need the friend sitting next to me that says, hey, Stephen, what are you doing? So when I hit the play button in Sukha, a QR code comes up. Tap with my phone. Start work. If I pick up my phone, the little voice comes and says to me, hey, Stephen, it seems like you picked up your phone. Is that distracting you? And that gives me that one moment to say, who do I want to be? And that's sometimes all I need. Just say, you know what? I'd rather be done earlier and do better work than, stay up later tonight. Exact same thing with websites. I can declare my custom list of what distracts me and say, if I open one of these websites more than 5 seconds, not just tab surfing, but I stop on it, give me a modal that says, hey, is this distracting you? And then I just get that moment, like a friend was sitting with me, to say, who do I want to be? Now, I'll tell you what's interesting is I have seen now, running this for years, the seasonality of distractions. There are so many people with very specific sports sites, for example, that come and go. I'm telling you, yeah. And it's the same thing as, across the world, whether it is, football, soccer, we, call it here, American football, whether it's baseball, whether it's ESPN in general, there is a huge amount of seasonality to, the thing that's distracting me is this. Whereas with the shopping sites, that is also very holiday based, right? So you see, for us, the Amazon and the Etsy's and those before the Labor Day sales, which is our fall holiday, before the Christmas, before the spring Memorial Day sales, those spike. And some people now in advance toggle them on, say, please, the next month, stop me if I open up Amazon, And I love that people are starting to get to know themselves, because again, that's a signal of, I want to be the best version of myself. I want to be in control of my life. So that's something that I am very passionate about, is just saying, you know what, find the tools, and it does not have to be Sukha. You can find freedom. You can find, so many of these tools that help you, or get a box. I don't think I ever showed you this. This is something I experimented with. See this?
Yes, there's your logo on it, and it's actually boxed.
It's a little phone coffin. So I can put my phone in there, and I put it down. And you know what? It's just the energy of trying to open it and get my phone out that stops me from picking it up sometimes. And it's just a bamboo box. By the way, I have a bunch of these. So things like that, if you get to know yourself, you say, you know what I need is this. Because ultimately, what we want is we want to do the thing we're capable of, and we want to feel in control of our life. And that's what I love. And I love how many people come to you because they are in the startup scene and they are saying, help me, teach me, give me tools, help me to do this thing. And that's awesome.
I would now move a little bit away from the productivity tips, more a little bit into, because you're a startup in an investor view. When an investor asks why you are in a crowded category, what's your differential thesis versus focus music apps and co-working cameras?
Well, I'll tell you two things. I have been very proud of the fact we bootstrapped this. I've raised over $21 million of venture for 3 companies. One successful exit, with Roland and Dean, we did Centropolis Effects. and 2 failed startups where I raised about $3 million for each, right? So I have learned a lot of the ways in which you raise venture money. In doing this, I said to myself, you know what? I have seen how sometimes raising venture obscures the unit economics. You think, oh, we have $4 million in the bank. We can be giving away our services or giving away the thing below, what it costs us to create this. And I went into this and I said, you know what? If we're not delivering a product that people want to pay for, then we have to ask ourselves what's wrong with the product. And that has been really helpful with Sukha, because I can tell when I see cancellations and we just shipped a release that had a new feature or took away a feature, that is the most honest user feedback you will ever get. When someone cancels, people will be nice to you all day long. Oh, Jorn, I love your app. Da, da, da. Really? Because you never use it. Oh, no, it's so good. No. And when people tell their friends, when referrals go up, that is a great signal of, okay, we just shipped something that people are like, oh my God, Steven, check this out. This is a really cool app I use. And for that reason, with this company, I didn't raise outside venture. It is all me. And I think with other startups that, who knows, friends are doing, there are great reasons to raise venture. But I love the discipline of saying, if we can't afford that because members are willing to pay, then is it really that valuable?
Makes total sense. Let's go a little bit into some other pieces of the story, because you co-founded Centropolis FX with Roland Emmerich and
Dean Devlin. Dean Devlin, yeah.
And sold it. How do you translate that deal craft into startup fundraising and business development today?
You know what? When when you win an Academy Award, it helps with fundraising. Let me just say that, right? So,
yeah, makes sense.
Having produced the digital effects for Independence Day, and I want to be very humble, 1,000 people are responsible for that visual effects. Like, that was a huge number of people who worked very hard. So it is not any one person, but having been the guy very close with Roland and Dean doing that, of course, when we went out to raise that, people said, oh, you have credibility in this field. You seem to be a subject matter expert. You have insights into why, this can be done the way you did it. And it worked. So that was a very different experience than my later fundraising. And my later fundraising, people didn't care that, I had done Independence Day. People didn't care that I'd sold Centropolis. Investors were very critical of, well, you haven't done this before. And that is when I learned the power of storytelling, even in fundraising, right? Now, there are fantastic people who write great advice on fundraising, right? Do your research on the investors you want, right? One of the things that I think is very important that some young founders don't realize is don't accept dumb money. There are people who will give you money and they do not contribute anything to the company. They don't have relationships where it's like, oh, I'm doing a shopping app and this person happened to be part of Amazon. They have insights in how the business should run, or they have contacts, right? You want to bring people in who have smart money. They can give you knowledge, expertise. They can tell you where the potholes are on the road ahead of you, right? And importantly, those seed investors that are smart, not dumb, their names send a signal to later investors. Because when they say, oh, you got Jorn, who is VP of Europe for Amazon in your shopping app in your seed round, that's a really great signal you're going to succeed, as opposed to Steven, who has a bunch of, real estate guys in the United States in his seed round, right? So that I learned to be very important. You want to accept smart money, not dumb money. It is about storytelling, especially at the early stages. When you're selling the dream, you're like, we don't have 10 years of ARR to model. We're not, We have an idea, we have market research, but more than anything, we have a strong thesis and we can explain why we think we are the ones to execute on it. Then you start to deal with, how do we overcome what you brought up, Jorn? Hey, it's a crowded field, Stephen. There are a lot of other apps that do whatever you do, right? And that is where you say it's a crowded field because there's a huge market for it. These other companies are not our competitors. They are the ones who proved out that there is a market. What we are going to do is take it to the next level. We are going to build on their shoulders and say, we'll do it better now that you've shown people will pay for this. And that's something where investors go, oh, so you're right. The crowded market actually makes you more attractive, not less attractive. Okay, well, tell me how you're better.
That totally makes sense. I was wondering, we talking such a lot about your tool, but you also partner with tools. If you partner with tools like Notion, Linear, Slack, or something,
yes,
what native integration best boosts flow without adding any noise?
What we do is we believe there are some beautiful tools out there. And some people use Todoist. They use Asana. They use Jira. They use, Slack or whatever. And we don't really want to replicate that. If those are the fantastic tools that someone uses, what we want to say is great. So continue to use Todoist or Linear. When you want to work, wouldn't it be easier for you if you could just integrate that task list and just pull from it? So you never have to retype a task or copy and paste a task. You can just simply choose from your Linear and just work on that today. Today, I'm going to close these 3, Linear tickets. Oh, I'm going to pull in these tasks from Todoist. And that's our point of view. One thing we're working on right now, and I'll tell you, this is hard. We have not solved this yet. We switched to Clerk. Do you know the auth platform Clerk? It's become very popular here in the United States, right? So alternative, like we move it off Firebase. So we used to offer the ability to connect your Slack. And the reason we did that is when you hit play, it would set your Slack to away mode. So people knew, oh, you're in a focus session. You're not going to respond instantly. And it took the pressure off you to be talking back to people, right? So they would see a message, hey, I'm in a flow session. I'll get back to you. And people really loved that. I'll tell you something, and I'm working on this. We have not solved this yet. And it bugs me. So when we move to Clerk, one thing that Clerk has not gotten to work yet is the multiple auth thing, where people use Slack, Jorn, yes?
Sometimes, yeah.
How many workspaces do you have connected?
I would need to check, but it's got so distracted that it's out of my auto start, and I'm only checking when I do have some time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I would say somewhere in the area of 2022, but you have to see there also, since I'm involved in different startup communities, I also like to look around. There are Slacks on startup communities, for example, in Lyon, France, in New York City, where I'm still a member. I don't have to contribute a lot. It's more to get a feel and to be connected. If I go there, I write, hey guys, I'm coming. Who's up for coffee or something like that?
Yes. So you are like many people that have multiple Slack workspaces. Clerk has not launched that yet. You can't do multiple auths with Slack. So we used to offer the ability where when you started, you hit play, the music starts, everything's blocked. Your Slack, all your workspaces would automatically say, hey, Jorn's in a flow session. I'm in flow. I'll get back to you. And we don't do that right now. And it bugs me every day. And we've been talking to the devs at Slack, at Clerk, to say, could you prioritize this? Because that's a big one. That is a big distraction. All little Slack messages that come in. So we got to work on that.
Mm-hmm. And when I saw your startup, what are you guys doing? I was wondering, what KPIs do you actually optimize for, like flow hours, per user per week, task completion velocity, or something else, and why?
Oh, okay. That is a really, really good question. Very few people ask me that because they're usually very curious about flow
Welcome to
states.
Startup Radio.
No, it's a fantastic question, but so many people want to go deep into flow states and mental techniques and all that. I'll tell you this, because of other startups that I've done and I've been part of, there are a lot of the downstream engagement metrics that I used to be very focused on. Like you said, okay, how many tasks are people inputting? How many are they completing? How much time are they spending? Da, da, da. And I'll tell you, I've been very focused on top of the funnel recently. And I'll tell you why. Our retention, if you sign up to pay, if you do your 7-day trial and you say, oh, I get it, I want to pay, our retention is incredibly high. It hovers around 94 to 96% month over month paid retention, which is insane. Because the reason for that is when you experience a flow state and you look up and it's 3:00 and you're done and you feel good, you're like, why would I work any other way? Right? Here's the problem. What we noticed was we would get unique visitors, like first-time users, who would come to the app and try it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and leave. And it was a very clear bifurcation. If they came, hit play, listened to music for 5 minutes, they go, oh, it's a music app like Brain FM or Endel, and leave. They never got into a flow state. They didn't come with a task so that they could have the experience of like, wow, man, what happened? That's awesome. I want more of this, right? And I got to tell you, it was black and white. That metric, when we figured out where it was we were losing people in, first-time user experience, was so clear. I have been focused on that one metric. How do we move that needle? So someone has to say, I want to come back tomorrow and develop a habit. And I'm going to come back on Wednesday. And it's free for a week. You can use it 168 hours in a row if you want without ever putting in a credit card. And I wanted people to say, oh, I'm going to do this a few times. I want to have that experience. So if you notice when you sign up now, there are a couple times in the first time user flow, in the onboarding, where I say, hey, don't go to the next step unless you have a task you need to do. Because I know that if you just hit play, you listen to music, you'll bounce in 1 minute. You're like, oh, okay, it's music, whatever. And that's not the magic.
Yeah, and the selection is not as good as on platform X and Y, and that's actually not what you're competing on.
Exactly right. So there are many metrics you brought up, but I'm going to tell you that is the only metric right now that I'm caring about is how many people have a first session that's over 60 minutes, because that is a determinant if they will end up signing up or not.
Let's talk a little bit about the 12 to 24 month roadmap. Where does the AI assisted facilitation fit, like not just break time as pairing?
Oh, another great question. I will tell you my vision, and this is the thing that we are working on because we are wrestling with the hallucinations. And every day we're getting closer to this, but we're not there yet, which is where we have the design. Our goal with the Smart Assistant is that in the morning, your Smart Assistant greets you. It's familiar with your task list. It suggests, Jorn, you know what? I've been watching what you've been doing every day. Here are the 3 most important things in my point of view. Are these the right 3 to start with? And you can say yes or no. You can adjust it. By the way, I noticed you're starting work today at 8:00, which is right in your sweet zone, your flow state zone. You work 20% faster when you listen to this playlist in the morning. Can I put on Sonic Caffeine for you? And you're like, oh, I appreciate that you're paying attention to me. It's not a bio-wearable sort of thing. It is you complete your tasks on time. You complete them under time. I've been watching. Here's what you do. Would love for that Smart Assistant to say, hey, and by the way, I looked at your task list like we were talking about before, and there's something on here that's not a task. Would it be okay if I broke that down for you into actual tasks? And that sort of companion that's looking at what are you listening to? What kind of breaks really recharge you? What time of day should you be working? By the way, I know that right now you put on the list, you want to write some code, but this is not actually your sweet spot. Can I put that on the list for later tonight? Maybe when the kids go to bed. And then right now, let's do this other thing that you're good at doing at 11 in the morning, right? That level of personalization, that is where I'm going.
I see. So basically, your own habit-forming AI
Correct.
assistant.
Yes.
Okay. Prediction. Will remote makers swing to co-located micropods or even better virtual rooms? What breaks the tie?
What breaks the time? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, what breaks the tie? Where does one win? Where does one lose?
Oh, what breaks the tie? You know what? I will tell you this. I have seen such strong use cases for solo work, virtual, co-working, where you may be in a Zoom room, maybe in some sort of group co-working, and then physical co-working. I couldn't tell you which one will win. I wish I had an answer for you. But again, I only want to be an expert on things where I should be an expert. And this is one where I don't know how it's going to turn out.
A little bit contrarian to what we heard from you before. Hustle culture kills innovation. Do you agree? And if you could be like Stephen Almighty, like for one day ruling all the world, like the movie,
Bruce Almighty.
Would you agree? Yeah, Bruce Almighty, exactly. And would you agree? And with what would you replace it?
Okay, I'm going to give you two answers to your one question, right? Because the direct answer to the question is, if you're saying, hey, Stephen, is hustle culture anathema to creativity? No, it's not. Smart productivity, like healthy productivity, is a thing. And great leaders know how to create greatness without enforcing the sleeping bag under the desk. You're here, I'm going to burn you out and kill you, and here's some stock options, go, right? Like there's a certain kind of leader that just doesn't understand how great work is done. So they only understand grinding it out, like they're drawing blood out of you, and they do get blood, but at what cost, right? So there are ways in which you can do very healthy productivity. Say, this is how I'm going to manage the team. Now, when you said, if I were Stephen Almighty and for one day I could change everything, the thing I would change is not hustle culture. If people really want to, spend more time than they need to on something, okay, we'll let them. If someone wants to be efficient, they can do their thing. The one thing I would change is this. I would change everyone so they're slightly more empathetic. And how that would change the nature of the world, including the nature of work, I think would be profound.
Interesting thoughts here. Interesting thoughts. For our audience, I would love to know what's one ritual you'll try this week to protect 90 minutes of deep work. Tell us in the comments below. Tag us on social media. We'll reshare it. Advice and close. Stephen, we're now talking for 1 hour, 44 minutes and a few seconds.
It's been great, though. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too. Let's get to the last two questions, and then there will be a few more questions in our Founders Vault published later. What single environment change yields the fastest productivity lift for solo founders?
I would say the oral environment. And by oral, I mean AU oral, like what you're doing with sound. Sound has a deep influence on the brain's ability to focus. So if you're in an environment where there are sound distractions, bings of your phone, children running by, the doorbell, it's a horrible way to break focus. So if there were one thing I had to say about the environment, it's easy to say, oh, declutter your desk or go work in this particular space. But I would actually say, work out your sound environment, your oral environment.
Mm-hmm. What's your boldest closing insights about creativity, resilience, and building through uncertainty?
Well, about creativity, we talked about the other thing. That is something that every time I've been blocked on something, I go back to what Jeff said to me 20 years ago, right? You have to be doing the other thing to have the back of your mind say, and here's the solution you've been waiting for. So if I'm blocked, I will go for a walk. I'll go downstairs. I'll take a shower. I'll do something and then let the back of my mind do that. So that is my biggest hack in terms of creativity. And did you also say mental focus or energy? What was the other part of your question?
The boldest closing insights about creativity, resilience, and building through uncertainty.
Resilience. Okay, so creativity, it is about the other thing. About resilience, it is that every role model you have has failed miserably. Period. Everyone. So you can look up to whomever you want. And just when you have that moment of like, oh my God, this thing happened. We didn't close the round, or we lost users this month or whatever. Everyone you look up to has had a worse loss than you. And I'll tell you this, the Austin Film Festival was recently here in Austin, and a number of people that I know from my film days, which is over a decade ago, were here, with premieres of their movies, their TV series. So they invited me. They're like, hey, I'm in Austin. I know you live here now and you're in tech, but do you want to come to my premiere? I will tell you this, Jorn. If you asked me 15, 20 years ago, who are the people that are going to be having premieres, I would have guessed wrong because I thought the determinant was talent. It is not. It is tenacity. The people who were here a month or two ago and were like, come to my premiere, I had come to this. They are not the ones that my friends and I all thought, oh my God, that's the best director ever. Oh, it's the most amazing writer. They're the ones who could take no to their face and still get up and say, okay, I'm going to try again.
Very, very true. Stephen, it has been a big pleasure talking to you.
It's been wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. It was now the final recording time will be around 1 hour and 50 minutes. I would say it's a long movie, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. It was such a pleasure having you. Hope to have you back in some time. Thank you very much. All the best.
Okay. Bye.
That's all, folks. Find more news, streams, events, and interviews at www.startuprad.io. Remember, sharing is caring.